70% are.
Valley Center City Council's special meeting for October 12th, 2023 is now in session. Roll call.
Mayor Cicerello,
Here.
Councilmember Stam,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Bass,
Here.
Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Gregory, here, Councilmember Kerstetter,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Colbert.
Here.
All righty, we're going to move on. We need approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
A motion, a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Item 4, new business. A public hearing and adoption of Resolution 741-23, application to KDHE for public water supply loan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Before we open this public hearing, we have with us this evening Brian Meyer with Burns and McDonald to give a brief presentation and explanation on how we got to where we are today to hopefully help explain some things on how we got to where we are now.
Perfect. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Peter. No, and I did promise Rodney I'd keep this brief, so, but did want to provide an update because there's been a tremendous amount of work that's been done over the past months to get us to where we are today and get us to the decision points that we're at today, so. We had several goals when we started this project, and they were really kind of broad-reaching. I mean, we wanted something that was going to be an innovative and sustainable solution, something that would look to the future as far as, if you have to expand in the future. So you would set up for that, have it well set up so it would be an economical move forward if the time is right. So, and of course, affordability was always at the forefront of this. And then water quality. Whatever the solution was, it had to be compatible with the water quality you have now or better. So that was one of the goals that was really important. Everybody, I think, has an idea where the site is. That is one of the fantastic things about this project was the proximity of the potential site to other utilities, the wastewater treatment plant, public works. So that was a true advantage, and the city owned the property. So that was an area that was one of the easier components of the decision-making process that this went through. Treatment plant capacity was the one that was a little bit more difficult and actually took some time and thought to make sure that it was going to meet the objectives of the city. At the forefront of that, what are your demands going to be in the future? How is that growth going to affect water treatment demands? What are the water rights? What are they capable of? What do you have now? What are some possibilities for the future of obtaining additional water rights or expanding your existing water rights? So those things were looked at as well, because those are important factors when you start to look at your long-term future. This is a depiction of the demand projections. The one I wanted to point out was the 2033 at 1.42. That's really, there's average day and then max day. And when you're looking at the capacity of a treatment plant, that max day is very important, especially when we have the objectives of making sure that we can use the water rights as effectively or as efficiently or to the maximum potential that they have. Because a lot of days you don't use enough water to even have the average day, but on the max days you do. So you've got to balance those two things to make sure you can utilize your water rights to the fullest extent possible. Here's a list of those water rights, and you can see that they vary and that each well has different quantity. It's really the cumulative that we're looking at. And that's a work that you have to do when you manage the resource throughout the operation of the treatment plant. And staff does a great job of that already. And that's something I think I should mention. As we went through this process and made some of these hard decisions and looked at the various options, staff has been fantastic in digging in, understanding what the challenges are, what the opportunities are, and helping make good informed decisions that would move the project forward. So at the end of the day, taking those things into account, looking at that future demand, what that maximum demand is going to be in 10 years, within 10 years, And where the water rights are today and what can be done with those water rights, that's where the capacity of 1.4 MGD was established as the right plan for the new treatment plant at this initial stage. In the future, when you grow even more, or there's, in this day and age, there's such unpredictable growth. I mean, we're seeing, at one point in time, we would plan for very steady growth. Now we're seeing a lot of volatility as you've all, within, industrial development, economic development. It's a little unpredictable. So we wanted to factor that in and make sure flexibility is at the core of this as well. So in the future, whether it's water treatment plant expansion, you'd be well positioned for that. Whether it's acquisition of more water rights to support that expansion, or how it's you interact with other wholesale contracts that can work into the equation and make sure the ratepayers are taken care of. So the treatment process selection, once you determine the size of the plant, then you have to decide what's the most economical, what's the most efficient treatment for the water. Water quality is a big factor with that. And obviously we know the water quality, it's challenging. It's got high iron, manganese, it's hardness. We have to soften it. That goal never changed. So that was the foundation of that. It's got to meet the expectations of what you have now and or exceed that. So the process selection was based on that. Number of alternatives were looked at. I think we looked at those when we very first started the project. We had a list, and those were the ones we worked through to find the right solution. I'm not going to go through this. You guys have seen this one before, but it's really the process we use to look at the economic and the non-economic factors. What are the cost impacts of a certain treatment? What are the operational impacts? And you start to look at all those and determine which one rises to the top. So there was a very thought out methodology that was used to select the process. And it ended up being green sand and membrane treatment. For the reasons that are listed. It appears to have the lowest capital cost, operating cost. It had some real advantages when it comes to how it can be automated. A lot of these type of plants will even operate overnight with no operator present, maybe monitoring from a remote location and maintenance done during the day. So you've got a lot of flexibility in how you operate it, and automation is a big part of what we looked at. Ease of expansion, we already talked about that. This is a very modular system, and it really facilitates that expansion in the future. And it's probably one of the most robust treatment processes when you look at future regulations and what could come down the pike, PFAS, some of those other emerging contaminants that you've heard of. So we've got to be prepared. We got to hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. So, and then one of the things that, because of the proximity of the wastewater treatment plant and just the evolution of water treatment and just water supply, at some point in the future, whether there's the need for indirect or direct potable reuse, we wanted to make sure we weren't ignoring that. So as a possibility to serve the community well in the future. Once the process was selected, then one of the first things KDHE focuses in on is what do we do with the residuals? And really the waste stream that's produced by the treatment process. Once again, significant advantage being next to the wastewater treatment plant. And there was a lot of back and forth with KDHE to make sure that we were on the right track in regard to economics, the most efficient management of those, but also protective of the environment. Because what we really wanted to do is make sure that we could find that solution that would be the least cost, but and ultimately a good portion of the waste stream is going to be clean enough, and we're going to manage it so that we can have a direct discharge to the river. So, and then we'll manage the solids through the wastewater treatment plant. So I think we got a great plan there. Once again, a good operational benefit. This is a simple layout of the plant, shows some of the footprint of planned equipment and future equipment. It kind of shows you that modular look and how easily it can be expanded, and the capacity of the various chemical feed rooms, electrical rooms will all take that into account as they're the design is advanced and then during construction. This is just an example. When we got to this point, then it was a matter of, okay, what does the market look like as far as a cost? What is the likely cost of this project? And you've all heard about the volatility and the escalation. So we actually had to break this down into all the pieces. So you can see a lot of them here. I'm not going to go through them, obviously, but these are the real pieces that we went out and looked at metrics within the market, what was happening, what we were seeing on other local projects. One advantage is that there's a lot of activity in the area right now. So we have real-time numbers on what some of the commodities were and what some of the equipment costs were, and also the supply chain challenges in regard to delivery. So we took a deep dive into that. So at the end of the day, we were able to come up with the answers and come up with the estimated order of magnitude cost, which is a conservative estimate, and put that together. And that's when the staff dug in and started looking at, okay, how does this look? How are we going to manage this project? And they put a tremendous amount of effort into it. Really appreciated the number of meetings we had and the discussion we had that evaluated where we were at, because that was the most important thing. Is this the right project? And is this where we want to go? So tremendous effort went into that. One thing I would add in here, and Rodney has some additional information on it, is that one thing we did early is, because of that water quality that we talked about, the manganese in particular as being one of the new emerging contaminants that we're eventually going to have a maximum contaminant level assigned to it, there was the opportunity to get some funding to manage that particular water quality issue. So that's part of this process that we're talking about is a $1.5 million worth of principal forgiveness on any loan that would be executed. So that's kind of a big deal. That was one thing we were able to lock in up front, and KDHE was very helpful and cooperative as we went down that road to make sure that we were checking all the right boxes. So with that, I think that's my update, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide additional information.
Councilmember Wilson.
So great presentation. I appreciate that. So I see that we talk about the 1.4 as the maximum daily capacity. That's based on the first initial layout of the plant, correct? And that will take us up through, possibly up through 33 if we get to that point. What is the capacity of is that the capacity of the facility as well without expansion? Or explain that, because to me, what we're getting ready to spend is going to give me out 10 years.
No. And Rodney looks like he wants to talk about that, but no, it's more than that.
Okay.
No, I can see how that could be a little bit confusing. How we picked the 1.4, so you saw the 1.4 megas 2033. Right now, that's well and beyond what our capacity would be now. The plant is actually built, so he said it's in a modular design. It's actually built to be expanded out to 2 million gallons a day.
Okay.
So you can add your membranes in a skid network. So basically the plant will be built in with an open skid. So as our needs expand, we can come in and add another membrane skid to increase our capacity at that point in time. So yes, we have figured this out. We planned this out for hopefully much more than 10 years.
I was just thinking, with the housing additions we have coming online, thinking about that number, and I know you didn't really mention a per household usage and how many households would the plant be able to take on its capacity. That's something that I think that the public would want to know is, we take care of what households we have today, but in the future, how many more households could we add on to this without having to expand it?
Yes, and right now, today, our average usage is somewhere around 0.35 to 0.4 MGD. When he's talking maximum daily, that's your worst case scenario, your fire protection. It's a rarity that you're going to hit that, but you have to be prepared for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No?
I'll ask.
Oh, wait, Councilmember Anderson.
All right.
So you talked about adding additional membrane skids to accommodate expansion. What percent, do we have a rough idea of percentage of cost to what that would be to add those based on like the entire project?
I don't have an exact percentage.
Right.
It's generally we're actually looking at doing that at one other plant right now. I think to put that in perspective, and the ratio is a little different. The skids are sized a little bit differently, but just in general, that's going to be about a $2 million project. The original project was in the $20 million range.
So
So
10%?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's exactly what I was wanting to know. So we kind of have an idea down the road when we need to expand, what kind of scope we're talking about as far as additional monies to get us where we need to be. And that's,
And I
Perfect, so-
can certainly take a deeper dive, and as we move forward, make sure that we've got precise numbers that at least look at it under today's market conditions. So be
Okay.
happy to do that.
thank you.
Okay. Yes or no?
Yes.
Councilmember Curtis.
I asked Brent to talk about, or have somebody talk about a little bit of history of how long we've been planning for this. And we're finally getting to this stage because we hired you guys in February, right?
Actually, I think that's what.
A little bit before that. So, but before that, I remember sitting over there talking about a water treatment facility with our previous administrator. So we've been talking about this for, we're not going to go how many years, but a long time.
I will throw my 2 cents in on that because it was before you even were on the council that this was it's something that's always been talked about,
Mhm.
but it's never been acted on.
Well, and we're basically, we're coming to fruition. All this planning it's kind of nice.
Yes.
And I'm glad to hear that we're planning for the future because we have how many, 3 or 4 housing developments kicking off right now.
Yep.
So
Another very important detail on that, Councilman Kerstetter, is as it stands right now, our connection to the city of Wichita will remain. So the conception of this whole thing is they would still remain as a peak provider. So if ever we get those days where we get beyond, just utterly get beyond our capacity, we still have that until that connection is severed.
Okay. And any idea any plans on severing that connection?
No, I don't have, I don't dare to even
Well, I know. I
go
just,
down.
I don't think we would want to ever do that. I'm sure that the agreements will change dramatically between us and the city of Wichita, but
right.
yeah, we would be taking our backup away if we had, emergency stuff.
I think
But
that's
we'll see.
all I had.
All right. All right, seeing nobody else, I will then go ahead and open the public hearing. So,
Get the motion.
not yet. I gotta have a public hearing first.
Oh.
It is 7:18 PM. I will then now declare the public meeting open. There are 2 people from the public here. If either one of you would like to speak, this would be the time for you to do so. Seeing no, I will now say it's 7:18 and about 30 seconds after I opened it, and we'll close the public hearing. So council, now we'll move on to the motion.
Staff recommends a motion to approve Resolution 741-23, authorizing loan application to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. This will need to be done with a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second and a third for this authorization. Does require a roll call vote, so I will ask that the roll be called. Who's going to call it?
I'll call. Councilman Stamp,
Yes.
Councilman Evans,
Yes.
Councilman Bass,
Yes.
Councilman Anderson,
Yes.
Councilman Gregory,
Yes.
Councilman Kerstetter,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson,
Yes.
and Councilman Colbert.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. Council, that's all we have for tonight. Before we adjourn, though, I do want to just touch real quick, like to send out thoughts and prayers. I'm not sure if you've heard, but there was a 8-year-old child that was involved with in a vehicle accident earlier this evening over in Redbud. I have been in contact with the city administrator. He advises me that the child will be okay. and speed was not an issue in this situation. So just a real quick touch. I know it's a special meeting, but I thought since it's already been put out in the internet world, I should at least touch on it. So, all right. With that said, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion a second to adjourn. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.